Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Raging Reality reaction video where today guys we are going to be doing the second video for our channel. Now I'll go over this very quickly. Tonight's video today guys we're going to take a look at a movie from 2016. That movie is a Japanese anime film called Harmony. Now let me just go over very briefly exactly how I came to know about the film Harmony. Is that I was at Newcastle City Library a number of days ago when that DVD pretty much just stuck out to me, and I rented it for a week for only 50p, which I'm gonna tell you right now, actually renting movies, like physical copies, seems so strange that I genuinely cannot believe that it's because it's the only real experience I've had in like nearly 15 years of actually being in a Blockbuster. In fact, actually in the neighborhood where I live in, there actually was, I should say, a Blockbuster before it became a Tandoori, I should say. And I don't particularly know. Well, it says added November 2016. I'm just gonna go check on the back to see. Okay, yeah, definitely came out in 2016. And apparently the biggest thing that it says on the back of the cover is, in a perfect world, what price would it be to be different? Which I'm more than certain this is going to be one of those types of films where we're going to have very interesting and very involved discussions about the price of literally living in a world where there is possibly no ill, no sickness, no indifference, no hatred or whatever. So I think that's maybe what we're going to be talking about, but for the sake of accuracy, let's get started and see what this is all about. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Harmony. Okay, guys, that was depressing as hell. I'm actually going to be honest. Actually, guys, that was Harmony. Wow, just like I alluded to just a few, just about a moment ago, that was really depressing. The more I look into it, and I'm gonna love you guys. The movie is it's a staggeringly very poignant film, but. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go over like a few things I need to like pretty much make clear right now. I believe this was Jamie Moriarty who plays Tuan, the main character, only because I reckon this was dubbed by Funimation, and I've heard a lot of these voices before, like Monica Ray, mostly because the main character, it looks like a slightly more scarleted version of Urza Scarlet from Fairy Tail, which I believe was also played by Moriarty. It's a really good choice for a main heroine. I'm gonna be honest. And actually, before we I actually wanted to make this the review portion of the movie. I sort of like want to split it into two parts. And I'm going to do that for a very specific reason, as you're about to see. But first, let's talk about the movie itself. Now, what is the movie about? Well, Harmony is about this Helix operative by the name of Tuan, who is longing to escape from the world that is modern-day Japan, which seems to be consumed with an ideology known as lifism, i.e. a world in which there is where there is no maelstrom academic pandemic. Basically, they reference this a lot, but it's a lot. There's a lot of references to stuff like Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, in which they believe there is something within the human mind which is known as a harmony unit, which Tuan's father has a stake in creating this ideology in which free will, consciousness can be controlled or even destroyed. And that is actually what our villain in the story, Homoke, is that the right word I'm looking for again? I can never get this word right. Let's see. Future education defined. No, Miyoke. Okay, sorry, that was just a very definite way of pronouncing it. Miyoke. Miyoke is this girl who, and her backstory is sort of like delved into almost at the very end of the movie, where she explains she was kidnapped at 7 years old by Russians, raped day in, day out, but it was only when she was literally at the very bottom, like when this Russian general would do the most unspeakable. I say unspeakable because one, they are. Second, they caused Tuan to cry halfway through because she doesn't want to hear any more about how this. Actually, what it was quite interesting because Miyoke pretty much described that her consciousness was. This was when her consciousness was born. This is when she began to experience and feel what pain was. It was so, which I think is quite interesting because beforehand, when she was only going through the beginning stages of being abused, she didn't like acknowledge that this was supposed to be pain, this was supposed to be fear, or could make any association between the two. She simply saw this as this is what life is, and then it came to her, all she wants now, and what she's trying to impose on this world is that everybody should go. Everybody should experience this world in which everyone can expose harmony, in which there is no way that anybody can experience pain or even free will. That is basically the ascension of a plan. Is that she wants to go back to the time when she could feel absolutely nothing. She felt as if like she had absolutely no way of understanding anything whatsoever about this world. She had no free will because it was ripped away from her and literally raped, you might say. And that's more or less Miyoke's sort of like motive through all of this. And she goes through this sort of like this terrorist operative by forcing millions of people to either commit suicide because they don't want to experience what's going to happen because of her influence, or she threatens people that unless they take somebody else's life, they will be killed within a matter of days. And when I think about it, in the end, I think actually the villain actually wins in this because because it's sort of left a little bit ambiguous about what happens at the end because Miyoke, I believe, there was some kind of like white tablets which kind of look like giant Xbox 360s with a swirling circle in it, and I believe this is supposed to like represent a person's consciousness, perhaps. I believe because it sort of types out a cryptic message saying that this isn't going to work. I won't be able to see any of you again. Goodbye, body. Goodbye, soul. Goodbye, everyone. And that's literally how the movie ends, more or less. So I think Miyoke sort of understood at the end of it that it cost her only friends that she knew in Miyoke and Tuan and Seien. There was no way that she could have lived with the guilt, with the fact that she actually activated the Harmony unit, so all the mass suicide stopped, but this meant the destruction of human will. There was no maelstrom, it was complete control of the human mind. No one could make any free decisions, no free will, there was nothing like that. Every consciousness was virtually wiped out from existence. So when you look at it like that, the villain got exactly what she wanted, but it never was what she wanted because I believe she took her own life anyway. And I believe Tuan actually takes her own, because I don't know, it's the way that she does it. She says she loves Miyoke, but they can't live in this world. She grabs Miyoke close, then Tuan, who has a gun, pulls the trigger, but it's never really shown if she intends to shoot herself or she attempts to shoot Miyoke, or she takes both of them out. Because the way they decided to do this is that there was this pact the three had made 13 years ago from when the movie started, that they would escape from this world of hell in which Japan was killing people with kindness, was the way they put it, by all committing suicide, to be free from this world in which they in which they saw human consciousness as something destructive, as doing the complete opposite of preaching free will, but in reality, the maelstrom of I'm trying to like remember of lifeism was going to control of everyone else. It's a really interesting. Because the story it's more or less I would say man versus nature, but it's more of the case of man versus man who is creating nature, and then man who wants to use that nature to create a new nature, and sort of like a paradigm of nature created solely by the human conscious to destroy human conscious, as it were. That's very interesting, because I mentioned earlier on about the references to Brave New World, and I'm gonna have to like tell a little bit about Brave New World for literally just for the sake of like trying to get you guys, maybe trying to see where you guys are see where I'm coming from with this. Now, things you need to know about Brave New World is that, well, it was written by Aldous Huxley, and the story was essentially, from what I've read of it, it was that they had perfected human cloning, so certain people were born with characteristics to distaste, have hatred for very specific things like transport or flowers, or they could perfect this method in such a way that every child was more or less perfect, akin to the new world that they were creating. And this is more or less Harmony is more or less exactly that scenario realized. This was almost, if you like, Aldous Huxley's sort of very, very persistent view to the future, where human consciousness could not only be used to create such what I could only describe as a cheap imitation of heaven. And I especially love and actually, you know what, so it's a really tragic sort of way to end it as well, because one, I straight up do not even know if I actually am going to go with the idea that Tuan did kill herself, and Mokake, I'm never going to get to pronounce that name. Let's just try this one more time. Miyake, yeah, that's it. Miyake, she, even though she decides to end her consciousness through these huge blocks, which I'm assuming is... It's quite weird as well, because Sian, one of the friends who was killed quite early in the film, she goes... she decides, pretty much influenced by Miyake, that this was the only way out of this world, and she had no guilt whatsoever for what she had done. And it's a... I reckon if you're a fan of this sort of story, a deliberate and very, very provocative conversation about free will, human consciousness, what do we pay for freedom? Like, the price of freedom, what does that cost at the expense of everyone else, and how, because of our free will, and we have the free will to create, but we also have the free will to destroy. This is what happens. Miyake got her revenge. I still maintain that she got her revenge, but she realized that her heaven turned out to be hell incarnate. Because I generally do not... Because she said, she said in the very end of the film, "Goodbye, world, you will never see me again." So she took herself out of this, but at the expense of destroying all free will on the planet. And I think that is brilliant. And I think that's a bit of a dick move, to be honest, that you take the easy way out, because all of us, you got what you wanted, but you had to take yourself and literally everyone else's minds out of this. Now, actually, a few things I'm going to need to comment on a bit as well, is that lifeism is supposed to be this concept, this run of theory in which we could keep every single human being alive to... Pretty much, okay, let me try to explain exactly what I believe the concept of lifeism is supposed to be, based on Harmony's approach. It's like a helicopter parent. It is like constantly there to keep a human being nourished and alive, but to progressively, educate and develop their minds as they're going into adulthood. And I say that because it's a case for every single human on the planet that they've tried to do this for. And some people, it has to be said, some people mature at very different rates and very different paces. It's not a one case for all scenario, which is what they've been trying to do in the movie. But I think that's really... I'm gonna go on the record right now and say that if this movie, if this went out to like mainstream theaters, or as far as I can work out, somebody will make a Western version of Harmony. This will go over big time. There is something extremely powerful and something really provocative about people who write like this. This is the sort of thing I will always... And I hope fine well I could be like that, because I don't know who exactly the Takashi Nakamura and Mike... Okay, if I was anything like Takashi Nakamura, I would if he was a fan of Aldous Huxley as well. You know what? If I ever get the chance to meet him or ever made a movie quite like this, I might actually have to ask him that one day, if I ever meet this man, whether or not he was a fan of Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Now, that's not the end of the first part of this, because I kind of wanted to touch upon the animation, because spending so many years studying animation and now on the verge of making my breakthrough myself, a few things I kind of actually wanted to point out that were a little bit strange, I felt. The animation, it's what I would expect from a major studio like Studio 4 Degrees. However, and this is a trend I've seen in clips of modern Eastern animated films, is that the blend of 3D in a primarily 2D environment. Now, I mention this is because I know they did a really good job of what they could do in Harmony, and I have to really, tip my hat and raise my glass to the people at 4 Degrees, because this sort of thing cannot be done in 5 minutes. This must have been gone through numerous practices, but no matter how well you can blend the two, there are some things that are going to stick out or not blend 100%. And this isn't straight up me, making a critique or anything, but if you watch, there are certain parts of the film you watch where there is plenty of 3D, is that it sticks out pretty well. In some scenes, it's almost fine. Like, you can tell, obviously, the way it's animated is obviously different. Some scenes, however, like the whenever Torn and this council officer named Asura, they would sit in some sort of like virtual reality conference room. You could obviously tell that, again, different sort of like styles and directions were going there. Also, so naturally that would be that, but there's something else I wanted to bring up as well that I'll be interested to hear your opinions on. First off, the excessive use of location shots. They go to so many places all over the world. They go to Niger, they go to Japan, and actually, excuse me guys, this is actually what Japan looks like more or less in the film, as though it was taken over by people who were made of bubblegum, because everything in Japan, in the daylight, everything has a pink look about it. The walls look pink, everything looks pink whenever they do any shots in Japan, because, and it's even more, it comes out in spades, because the background is almost completely white in every shot there would be of the sky in Japan. It's an interesting design choice, because I've never seen anybody try to design Japan quite like that before. That's really, really cool, I'm not gonna lie. Other than that, they go to Niger, they go to Japan, they go to Baghdad, of all places, and Baghdad, it looks exactly as I would imagine an animation studio trying to depict Iraq, possibly. Well, actually, I think there was like a black. There was some type of movie that was about Iraq. I'm trying to literally think of the word, because I know this is a movie I want to see. It was a Western film that came out in 2007. it'll come to me. But that's this is the big difference when it comes to a feature length anime film as opposed to characters in a show like, I don't know, Neo Axis Powers, or maybe Konosuba, or I don't know, possibly even Demon Hunter, or what's that other one called? Not Attack on Titan. It's Tokyo Ghoul. This is how I'd imagine a studio like 4C, like they really went out of their way to convey something of the idea of what places like Baghdad would be in this sort of world. And I'm gonna straight right out. It's a really, really interesting, but it's a beautifully looking place as well. So there's that. One other thing I of course I want to touch upon the animation slightly is that there are some very, very strange camera angles, which kind of like, and this is sort of like why it works into some things with the 3D are a little bit weird, because there'll be some shots where a camera will sort of like pan around a corner and then come to the other side of somebody's face, and it kind of like, I mean, this happens to Torn in a one or two shots, because it goes from her looking 2D, but then there's sort of like this very hidden 3D depth, so the animation changed literally without me even realizing, and it's a different shot. And you know what? I think I can understand why they would do something like this, because it looks really, really cool, and it looks like that's actually the biggest thing I want to straight up say right now, because this is the sort of movie that should be played in a movie theater on a screen far bigger than the television screen, which is about a 21-inch set I've got right here. It should be bigger on that sort of thing as opposed to the set I've got here. That's what movies like Harmony should be shot on for. And but this isn't even getting started with like Studio Ghibli or stuff like that. But it's a beautiful style. I'm just gonna call it right here and there. Now, naturally, that's where I would end the review, and I would say absolutely I'd go recommend this. I never heard about this movie until a few days ago, but I think this movie really has something special in it. This movie has I think for people like me who are keen on writing material quite like this, like exploring the realms, the dungeons, the chambers of human consciousness, and some unmitigated desire to cause chaos and there is something deeply passionate about ideas like these. But a big reason why I wanted to continue slightly on is that this is sort of the part 2 to this review, and it's not really got much to do with Harmony itself. It's got to do with what I actually think of when it comes to movies like Harmony that I'm going to check out in the future. Now, as some of you guys may already know, I have a very keen passion for screenwriting. I believe myself to be rather adept, and you know what? I am developing and learning my skills. I want to one day write movies anywhere near as good as I know the first two movies we looked at so far, The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner and Harmony. But you know what? Considering the stack of films I want to get to and show you guys, and I want to be able to think for myself about what they could mean and things about story, this is the best place I think we could learn and develop our skills, by seeing all these styles and seeing what these people can do, and basically take it from there. There is so much we can learn from these guys. And you know what? I feel like, especially when it comes to movies like Harmony, there is just straight up so... I want to freaking like get started to work now, and I know that's somewhat ridiculous because it's like, what's the time now? Like, nearly 11:15 at night. But you know what? I'm going to be going over this movie in my head so much. Like, this is what I was made for, guys. This is exactly what I want to do. I want to make a movie that doesn't beat Harmony, but comes close to it, because the movie I sort of wanted to make, where I could talk about some of the things that I believe are important and matter and are as crazy and brutal that we've seen in Harmony. So that, guys, was my review of Harmony. I hope all of you guys have enjoyed it. Would I recommend Harmony to you guys? Absolutely. Would I recommend stories? I mean, this is, if anything, this movie is kind of like, and I've never seen The Matrix because I'm gonna level with you guys, I'm not really that interested in The Matrix. This is sort of like, for me, the Matrix for people who are not interested in The Matrix. And I'm pretty sure there are millions of other stories out there. Possibly The Cell, I heard, is pretty out there as far as like human consciousness is concerned. But that's going to have to be for something else, because what movies like Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly, and A Scanner Darkly with Robert Downey Jr., that is something I'm going to have to get to at some point as well. But before we get into do any of that, I would definitely go and recommend and check out Harmony. It is, you do not want Harmony, but you don't want to experience Harmony, but you want to watch Harmony. And people who've seen this movie will instantly get that drift. So anyway, I hope all of you guys have enjoyed this review of the movie Harmony. Please make sure to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of Harmony yourself, if you've seen the movie. And if you haven't seen the movie, I'd recommend going checking that out right now. And I hope to love you guys again in the next reaction video. Take care. Bye-bye for now. Boom.